It's Cam Moon on the line. Mooner, you're on with Brenden. How's it going?
Oh, it's going very well. How are you doing today?
We're doing pretty well. You've been taking in a lot of baseball in the downtown portion of our city, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And I'm going to take some more in tonight and tomorrow night.
Excellent. I figured that might be the case. I'm happy to hear it. Were you there on Canada Day, or when the masses came out, did you choose to take the pass?
That is correct. Yes, I took the pass. They were going to be full anyway. I did go on Wednesday. I caught the last little bit just online last night, but I'm going to go there tonight and tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to it. They got a pretty good team, so we'll see how it goes tonight.
So NHL free agency, a whirlwind once again. It was a whirlwind on the 30th before it even really got to begin. From your seat, though, what stood out the most about the way that teams have been spending their money this year?
Yeah, and you go into July 1st, and of course there was re-signings and what have you before, lots of them, to the point where I was kind of wondering what was going to happen on July 1st, but there was still plenty. There was still plenty going on. But what struck me, this is like, that's the day of the year that a lot of teams make mistakes, but they don't seem like mistakes at the time. You think about the Oilers the year before, the Nashville Predators the year before, and how fired up fans were with the Predators, with the Oilers, and the Victor Arvidsson and the Jeff Skinner signings did not go as planned. And hey, that's what happens. It's the nature of the beast. And I don't doubt 6 months from now we're going to look at some signings of teams and be saying the exact same thing. But the amount of money that the Los Angeles Kings spent was significant, and it did strike me as a lot. And I mean, again, we will see how that plays out, how that pays off. The fact that the Florida Panthers were able to get everybody re-signed that they pretty much wanted to, and got some very team-friendly deals too. And I guess that's what happens when you win. And I know they got no state tax, and I'm not oblivious to that fact. But you win, and you want to keep the band together, and they were able to do it. So that struck me as something. That deal that the Canadians get Noah Dobson from the Islanders, I think is a significant deal. And the Canadians having such a good year last year, and that push to the playoffs, and they get to the playoffs a year or two earlier than I think a lot of people would have expected. Maybe not the hardcore of Hab fans. Maybe they held out hope a little bit more. But to get a guy like Dobson to help get some experience and a quality defenseman, but a little experience to get some good young guys back there. That was I don't know that I had that on my radar, but that was something that stood out to me, following Nikolai Ehlers and what he was going to do. And, it did seem like he wanted to try something other than Winnipeg, and then eventually did with Carolina. That was something that I was keeping my eye on as things went down. But yeah, it's always a busy day, and I was helping out with Bob on his show, and it's, as like you were at the Ched side of it, and I was over at Rogers Place, and they just come flying in. Like, it's just, hey, like once it opens and it gets going, there's name after name after name, and you're trying to process it all as it's going. And the Oilers later in the day getting Andrew Mangiapane signed to a deal that I think from a cap hit and from a term, I think those are both extremely friendly deals for the team, and an opportunity for Mangiapane to cash in on playing with an Oiler team where players can come in and boost some numbers. Now, it doesn't happen for everybody, as we saw with Arvidsson and Skinner. It didn't really work as well for those guys, but it has for others. And if you look at the structure of the Oilers lineup now, and sure, other things can happen, and probably will, I guess. I mean, there's still a lot of time between now and the start of the season, but it's starting to shape up.
Certainly is, and part of that was the addition of Curtis Lazar. You talked about Andrew Mangiapane, but Lazar is an underrated pickup coming off of an injury with, I would imagine, plenty left to give at just 30 years old. But somebody that fills a need, right? A face-off man, for example. He's, I know, only at 48% in his career, but he was at 52% last year, and he took more draws last year than in any other season that he has to this point in his career. So I see that there's the potential there. There's a lot of potential, I guess, with Curtis to be able to resurrect something, especially at the league minimum here.
Yeah, and as I understand it, was really excited to come to Edmonton. Of course, he played for the Oil Kings and would have had great memories of playing with very good Edmonton Oil King teams. One that won the Memorial Cup, two that won the Western Hockey League Championship. So, and another one that went to the final and lost in the WHL final to Portland. So, his time in Edmonton was a lot of winning and a lot of playoff games. And I'm sure he'd love to keep that going at the NHL level with the Oilers. So, yeah, as I understand it, he was fired up to come to the Oilers, and he brings something. And he could be a solid fourth-line center for you, and is a guy that, he works hard and plays hard, and those are important things. And if you get guys like that at a league minimum, that's huge, because you got to fill that lineup when you have players making big money, like Evan Bouchard next year with his re-up, and Leon Draisaitl's, his deal kicks in, and you're a year away from Connor McDavid, and of course the Oilers would be working hard to get that done before the season starts, and hopefully that does get done. But you have to have players on lower contracts to make the whole thing work. And a guy like Lazar, you're right, could be a key addition to this team heading into next year. So, and I think that the Evan Bouchard that was something that was to be followed closely too. And the reason I say that is, had Evan got to July 1st without doing a deal, it opened the possibility of an offer sheet. And as you know, when we had Brian Lawton on the show, they figured that was absolutely going to happen. And if that did happen, it would cost the Oilers more money to match. So to get Evan done at that 10.5 per season, to get that done, save the Oilers some money.
Chatting with Cam Moon right now, our not our insider, he's our headliner. For Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Yeah, you're the headliner today, my friend. What excites you about Matthew Savoy's prospects as he gets set to make the jump to the NHL this season?
A few things. And I went down to prospects yesterday and the day before. So I went and watched, and Matt Savoy stood out. And he should. He's a first-round NHL pick. He's got a year in the American Hockey League under his belt. In fact, he's got NHL games under his belt. So he should stand out. But he did stand out. And the fact that when he came up last year and had that look-see, and I know he'd played a game in Buffalo before, so it wasn't like his NHL debut, but it was his debut with the Oilers, and played 4 games. And I saw a guy that was, despite not being the biggest player, was winning battles and winning races to pucks and helping create plays and keep plays alive in the offensive zone. And of course, you look at his WHL numbers, and they're ridiculous, of course. But there's other aspects of his game that are well-rounded and will continue to be well-rounded. And the fact that, yes, other than the short stint with the Oilers, played the entire year in the American Hockey League and had a good year, and as it went on, kept getting better and better and better. I think this is a guy that, now that he's got that year under his belt, which is important, making that jump from junior straight to the NHL is incredibly hard, and only the most elite of the elite can do it seamlessly. But to get a year in the American League under his belt will serve him well and have him poised to be a regular contributor to the Oilers next year. And again, he's another one of those guys that's going to come in, on his entry-level deal, lower level, that you need. And you're going to need him to be good and to be able to contribute. And I think he will. And it's important to the Oilers that he does. Otherwise, now you got to start looking to fill a hole. But I'm sure he'll get every opportunity to do it. What I saw last year when he came up and what I saw the last couple of days down at the prospects leads me to believe that he's going to be able to do it. But fans are going to have some patience. You can't expect it right out of the gate when the regular season starts. He's going to be able to just take off. It's going to take a little while. Has to get adjusted. I know preseason's preseason, but that's not regular season pace, and it's not regular season rosters. So if there's some success in the preseason, that's great. But you got to temper the expectations, and you got to have some patience to see him through the first little while to get adjusted. But I think his skill set and his tenacity will give him every opportunity to be successful.
I wonder, coming off of the deep playoff run, we know expectations are still sky high here as long as McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard are all a part of things. But what's the biggest challenge this team faces now to get over the hump in this upcoming season, do you think?
Well, the thing is you start right back at zero and, going to a Stanley Cup final again. Not being successful again, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to deal with, and that intensity of a Stanley Cup final cannot be replicated in Game 1 of the regular season. But the players have been through that, and they were able to see them come out of the gates a little clunky last year. And it took a while to get going. And once they got going in November, they had that stretch in November through the middle of January where they were outstanding because it's a good lineup, and this is still a good lineup. To me, that's the big challenge: is to get out of the gate better than you did last year. Because those points in October and November, they count the same as they do in March and April. So to bank as much as you can, because then once you get to the playoffs, and looking at it is right how it is right now, the cap situation, you could accrue space, and then you could make a nice addition come closer to trading deadline time. Which, if that's how it goes, that wouldn't surprise me at all. It only makes sense. Once you get to the playoffs, and now you have an Oiler team that has a ton of playoff experience and success. They won 3 rounds this year. They won 3 rounds the year before. They understand success, and once you get there, then that kicks in, and that, to me, that is an important aspect of it. But you got to get there, and getting out of the gate better than last year would help. So to me, that's going to be something to watch out for. I mean, I thought last year it wasn't the best camp, and it wasn't great through the preseason, so it shouldn't have been overly shocking that it was stumbly out of the gate. This year it would be, I think, important for them to hit the ground running. Well said, Cam. We'll leave it there and let you think about getting over to the ballpark. Enjoy tonight, okay? Thanks so much for your time. I'll be on the third base side, and you better believe, Mr. Escott, I will enjoy every second of it. All right. We know you will. That's our Cam Moon checking in with some thoughts on the Oilers' free agency.